And I just want to say for the record, LeBron James is full of it. And in this particular instance, as it pertains to his son, he is a liar.
Stephen A. Smith is once again making headlines, and this time he has Bronny James in his crosshairs following his previous clashes with LeBron James. He is now suggesting that Bronny's financial stability may not be as solid as many believe. In this video, I will go over exactly what Stephen A. had to say and explore what it could mean for Bronny moving forward. The real story behind the so-called bankruptcy rumors is finally coming to light, and I know you are probably wondering how Bronny James could possibly be facing financial trouble when his career is just taking off. Stephen A. Smith recently made some shocking claims about the situation, but to really understand what is happening we have to go back to where the tension first started, because this was never really about money from the beginning. It was about family expectations, and one of the most intense arguments sports media has seen in years. Everything began to heat up on January 28, 2025 when Stephen A. Smith appeared on First Take and shared an opinion that would quickly become one of his most talked about moments.
And pleading with LeBron James, stop this, stop this. We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad.
This was not just another strong opinion. This was Stephen A. giving his honest take on what he believed was a father setting his son up for an extremely tough situation. What makes this so interesting is that Stephen A. did not just speak from emotion, he backed up his thoughts with actual numbers. He pointed to Bronny's NBA stats, 76 minutes across 18 games with 25 points and shooting under 26%, and put them next to his G League performances where he averaged more than 13 points along with solid rebounds and assists over 7 games. The difference in those numbers bothered Stephen A. not just as someone who covers sports, but as a person who understands the weight of being LeBron James' son and the kind of pressure that no young player should have to carry.
Played in 13 NBA games. Ladies and gentlemen, he's averaging 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, and 0.4 rebounds. And he's playing in the first quarter of an NBA game? Really?
But Stephen A. did not stop at the numbers. He took it a step further by comparing the situation to one of the most painful moments in boxing history when Joe Frazier let his son Marvis fight heavyweight champion Larry Holmes, a comparison that would later prove to be spot on given the intense reaction he received. What made this moment even more charged was the bigger picture. This was not simply a 55th draft pick having a rough start in the league. This was LeBron James' son sharing the court with his dad in a moment that the league had built up as something truly special. The weight on Bronny was massive. People expected so much from him, and Stephen A. was putting into words what many around the NBA were thinking but would never say publicly. The timing could not have been worse for the James family because LeBron had already made comments in early 2022 telling teams if they wanted him they needed to draft Bronny, and then again in early 2023 saying Bronny was already better than some players in the league. Those words helped build a certain story around Bronny, and Stephen A. believed that story was placing too much weight on a young player still trying to find his way. But what really made Stephen A.'s approach so bold and so personal was that he did not keep the focus on Bronny performance alone. He turned the attention toward LeBron and the choices he was making as a father, and that shifted everything.
On the court with his son who has NBA aspirations, playing together for the first time in NBA history. My position has always been, that should have been the only moment we saw Bronny James in a Lakers uniform this season. Because he's not ready.
This wasn't Stephen A. being cruel or trying to destroy a young man's career. In his mind, he was being protected. He was looking at a situation where a 20-year-old was averaging 2.3 points, 0.8 assists, and 0.7 rebounds in 6.7 minutes per game, and wondering why someone with LeBron's basketball IQ would put his son in such a difficult position. The criticism intensified when Stephen A. started questioning LeBron's role in creating this situation. He pointed out that LeBron's public statements about wanting to play with his son had essentially forced the Lakers' hand, creating a scenario where Bronny would be judged not just as a basketball player but as the son of one of the greatest players in NBA history.
LeBron is the basketball savant. LeBron is one of the top 2 greatest players in the history of the game. LeBron has forgotten more basketball than most people would know. So no matter what we think about Bronny, he knows more.
What many people didn't realize at the time was that Stephen A. had actually been protecting Bronny for years. He revealed that he had deliberately avoided watching Bronny play in high school and college because he didn't want to be put in a position where he would have to critique LeBron's son.
James was in high school. I never went to see him play on purpose. And when I spoke about it on the air, I said, the kid, from what I'm being told, has potential. But we all know how great his father is.
The irony of the situation was palpable. Here was Stephen A. Smith, who had spent years trying to avoid criticizing Bronny James, finally speaking up because he felt the situation had become untenable. Stephen A. Smith's criticism wasn't really about Bronny, it was about LeBron's handling of the situation, but LeBron James saw it differently, very differently, and on March 6, 2025, during a Lakers game against the New York Knicks at Crypto.com Arena, all of that tension would explode in one of the most dramatic confrontations in recent sports media history. The explosive confrontation and LeBron's shocking admission. Stephen A. Smith was sitting courtside not as a regular attendee, but as a guest of Ari Emanuel from William Morris Endeavor alongside comedy legend Larry David. The Lakers were playing the New York Knicks. The game was being broadcast nationally and tensions were already high because of Stephen A's recent comments about Bronny. Then, during the third quarter, right out of a timeout, something unprecedented happened in sports media. LeBron James, one of the most composed and media-savvy athletes in the world, completely lost his cool and approached Stephen A. with an intensity that shocked everyone present.
On me and basically started speaking to me, getting in my face about stop effing with my son. That's my effing son. Stop effing with my son. And that was about the size of it. He didn't give me much of a chance to speak.
This wasn't just a basketball player upset about criticism, this was a father protecting his son, and Stephen A. recognized it immediately, but it also highlighted the fundamental miscommunication that had been building between them.
Very, very upset. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent.
Now you have to understand the context here. This wasn't just any random game. It was on the same day that news had broken about Stephen A. Smith's massive contract extension with ESPN. Stephen A. was already in the spotlight, and now he found himself in the middle of a confrontation that would dominate sports headlines for weeks. But here's what made this confrontation so unique. Stephen A. Smith's response: instead of escalating the situation or making a scene, he chose restraint, and his reasoning for this restraint reveals something crucial about both his character and his understanding of the situation.
The environment was conducive to that. Not in the middle of a game, standing on the sideline, where my only recourse would be to make a scene by retaliating. I was not going to do that, ladies.
But what happened after this confrontation is where our story takes a dramatic turn, because LeBron James, in trying to explain his actions, would inadvertently reveal something that completely changed the narrative of their entire feud. The revelation came during a conversation between LeBron and Richard Jefferson before a Lakers game against the Boston Celtics. Richard Jefferson, who won a championship with LeBron in Cleveland and now works for ESPN and ABC, was having what seemed like a casual conversation with his former teammate, but that conversation would expose the real reason behind LeBron's anger.
Jefferson, you saw the video. So when he sat up there and said, when I'm talking as a dad, right? That's the only thing I'm tripping. I don't give a F. Once he talks about you I plead as a father.
This was the moment that everything clicked for Stephen A. Smith. LeBron's anger wasn't really about protecting Bronny from criticism, it was about Stephen A's comments regarding LeBron's decision making as a father. The confrontation suddenly made sense in a completely different way.
So it wasn't about Bronny. It was about him.
This revelation was massive because it confirmed what Stephen A. had been saying all along. His criticism had never been directed at Bronny James personally, it had been about LeBron's role in creating an impossible situation for his son. But the drama was far from over. LeBron James would take his grievances public in a big way, appearing on the Pat McAfee Show on March 26, 2025, where he would make comments that would send Stephen A. Smith into full attack mode.
Swift. Tour run, right?
LeBron's Taylor Swift tour run comment was his way of saying that Stephen A. was milking the controversy for all it was worth, using their confrontation to generate content and attention. It was a direct shot at Stephen A's integrity as a journalist and commentator, but if LeBron thought Stephen A. would back down, he was about to learn otherwise. Stephen A's response would be swift, brutal, and would escalate their feud to an entirely new level.
And I just want to say for the record, LeBron James is full of it. And in this particular instance, as it pertains to his son, he is a liar. And he went on national television today and he lied.
This was Stephen A. Smith declaring war. He wasn't just defending his position anymore, he was going on the offensive, calling LeBron James a liar on national television. The gloves were officially off, but Stephen A. didn't stop there. He would go on to make one of the most shocking statements in the entire controversy, referencing the infamous Will Smith-Chris Rock Oscar incident and making it clear that he wouldn't have backed down if the confrontation had turned physical.
Me to act, you want this to be a reincarnation of Chris Rock and Will Smith? I would have gotten my ass kicked. Because had that man put his hands on me...
This statement sent shockwaves through the sports media world. Stephen A. Smith, one of the most recognizable faces in sports journalism, was essentially saying he would have fought LeBron James if their confrontation had turned physical. But beyond the drama and the heated exchanges, Stephen A. was making a deeper point about his relationship with NBA players and the challenges he faces as a black commentator in sports media. He felt that his criticism was being unfairly characterized as hating on the brothers, and he was fed up with that narrative.
Brother, I'm not gonna take this shit from people anymore.
There is a deeper layer to this whole situation that often gets missed in all the drama. Stephen A. Smith's frustration went beyond just LeBron and Bronny James. He was seeing a troubling pattern where some NBA players tried to discredit him by suggesting his criticism meant he was turning against his own community. Stephen A. pushed back hard on this narrative by laying out his track record. He reminded everyone that he serves as the ambassador for HBCU Week, an effort that has brought in millions of dollars in scholarships for students. He also pointed to his work as an executive producer on First Take, where he has actively helped bring more diverse voices to ESPN, and he emphasized that in 3 decades of journalism he has had access to damaging information about countless players, but has chosen to focus on basketball rather than personal destruction. The most telling part of his defense was when he highlighted the unfairness of how his words get twisted. He has consistently praised LeBron James, calling him the second greatest player in NBA history, a devoted father, husband, actor, businessman, philanthropist, and producer. Yet despite all that praise, the moment he offers any critique of LeBron's basketball decisions or judgment, it gets framed as a personal attack or worse, as something racially charged. Stephen A. made it clear he refuses to accept that characterization quietly.
LeBron James is the greatest player in the history of man outside of Michael Jordan. I don't have him as number 1. What haven't I said? 4-time champion, 4-time league MVP.
This pattern of having his criticism twisted into something it was not is something Stephen A. has faced throughout his entire career, but the situation with LeBron and Bronny pushed it to a breaking point. He was being accused of betraying his community and selling out simply for doing the job he was paid to do. The reality is Stephen A. Smith is not someone who jumps at chances to tear down the James family for attention. In fact, he went out of his way for years to protect them from the kind of harsh scrutiny his platform could easily bring. When Kendrick Perkins questioned whether Bronny deserved his McDonald's All-American status, Stephen A. stayed out of it. When reports surfaced that teams like Golden State, Phoenix, the Clippers, and Boston were interested in drafting Bronny, but backed off because LeBron and Rich Paul made it clear he would only end up with the Lakers, Stephen A. kept quiet. He only spoke up once Bronny was actually in the league, struggling with limited minutes and poor stats, and even then his issue was never with Bronny personally, but with how LeBron handled the entire situation. The way fans have reacted to this whole situation has been all over the place, with opinions sharply divided. Some people fully support Stephen A's right to call out what he sees on the court, while others believe his comments crossed a line and became too personal or harsh. There are fans who respect LeBron for standing up for his son, and others who think he should have handled things privately instead of turning it into a public spectacle. Beyond just the two men involved, the debate has sparked bigger conversations about how family connections work in professional sports. People have compared what Bronny is going through to other examples, like the Bucks signing Giannis Antetokounmpo's brothers to G League contracts, but the difference is clear. Bronny faces way more attention and pressure because of who his father is and the fact that their father-son NBA journey has played out so publicly. To understand Stephen A. Smith and why he approaches things the way he does, it helps to look back at his history with other NBA stars who have been on the receiving end of his criticism. Some of these past situations share similarities with what happened here. Take Zach Randolph, for example. Back in August 2017, Randolph was arrested for felony marijuana possession, and Stephen A. spoke out against it, consistent with his long-held position that athletes should stay away from recreational drug use. The arrest itself was serious, taking place near a housing project in Los Angeles and involving damage to police vehicles during a chaotic scene. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more content like this.